Samson, the strongest man who ever lived. Is this story a real true story of an actual person, the strongest man in the Hebrew Bible? Why Samson looks so much like Hercules? In this video, we're going to show you pagan parallels of Samson's story, but also his name is highly suspicious to be an actual person named the Sun or Little Sun. That's the sun in the sky. Stay tuned, we're going to get into some astrotheology stuff as well as take you into pagan parallels of Samson and other stories that look a lot like him. Maybe you guys might be shocked at the information that's brought here. If so, like I said, hit that subscribe button, that like button, comment down below your opinion. I'd like to hear your thoughts. We are Myth Vision. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is going insane. If you're not as, excited about this as I am, you just need to turn the show off. I don't think we see eye to eye. In fact, we're probably enemies, and I don't know what to say other than, get behind me, Satan. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I could think of. So, Dr. Bob, welcome back, brother. How you doing?
Oh, great. How about you?
I'm doing good. When we finished our last episode, my wife yelled at me and she was like, honey, we have this huge boulder that rolled down our mountain and it's sitting in front of the front door. So I opened the door and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, I tried to lift the damn thing. I obviously am not strong enough. And it just brought back this memory. It was like, I know somebody who could lift this probably with a few fingers. In the Hebrew Bible, it has this guy, Samson, ripping gates off cities, throwing them X amount of feet. And I said, if I only had the strength of Samson. So I said an incantation or a prayer or something of the sort, maybe even spoke in tongues a little. I don't know what happened. And this thing moved. I even threw it back on the top of the mountain where it belonged. And then my wife said, no, honey, you got it wrong. It was Hercules. And I was like, okay, I got to call Dr. Bob. We got to get Dr. Bob to fix this problem. Who is Samson? What's going on, Dr. Bob? What do we have here?
Well, it's sometimes theorized that Samson and Hercules were the same guy, just different names in different places, because though it's hard to tell because both were sun gods. They had been originally simply the sun. And there's this pattern of mythology evolving where originally aspects of nature are worshipped simply as they are. So the sun or a mountain or the ocean might be considered a god. And then they get personified somehow so that they're or like the man in the moon and so forth. So there is a god in charge of them, if not identified with them. And then as the culture becomes less polytheistic, the gods, like the god of the sun and all that, get demoted to being demigods, half gods, literally. And so we learn that some god has fathered the hero, the divine hero, and which explains his great prowess or powers or one thing or another, like the sun god Apollo is a god of healing, and originally the caduceus, the intertwining serpents on the staff, was his, and he traded it to Hermes, its original owner, for a lyre, but not a lyre like Adam Schiff. I mean, the stringed instrument, and but he was a healing god, and he mated with a mortal woman named Coronis, and nothing to do with the coronavirus, I guess. And the result was Asclepius, the great healing demigod, who could heal anything and had various healing spas, you might call them, all over the ancient world, and was known as the savior and so forth. And he brought a guy back from the dead, which kind of crossed a line he shouldn't have. And so Zeus killed him with a lightning bolt, but then raised him up to Olympus, where he became a full-fledged god. Well, there's that pattern right there. The sun god, the demigod, who's the offspring of the sun god, though it was in his role as the healer that he became famous then. And so the same thing happened with various ones. And in Greek mythology, Hercules had been the sun, and then he becomes downgraded to well, to skip a step, he becomes a demigod because he is Zeus's son by well, what's her name? Alchemy, I think, who was immortal, and so he has superhuman strength, as you know, but he still bears the marks of being a sun god. The 12 labors he performs in sequence, that represents the sun entering and leaving the houses of the zodiac. When he kills the Nemean lion and strips away the mane of it and wears it himself, it's because the hair, the fur of the mane is supposed to be the rays of the sun. And his poisoned arrows, which I think he uses to slay the Hydra or something, they represent sunstroke. In fact, one of a really fascinating psalm that is an incantation for protection. It says that you'll be shielded from Namtar, the arrows of Namtar, who was the sunstroke demon. And so his arrows were the beams of the sun that could kill, and the strength of the sun, like the heat and so on. Well, Samson is the Hebrew Hercules, and again, he may actually have been the same character, just given a different name. I don't know how anybody would be able to tell that, but it's not unlikely. And he too was the sun god. In fact, his name, Shemeshun in Hebrew, simply means the sun, S-U-N. I mean, it can't get more obvious than that. He also slays a lion, hence the furry mane. He is twice between two pillars when he takes that gate off its foundation and carries it to the top of the hill, and when he dies, brings down the temple of Dagon in Philistia and gets killed. It's the pillars he's between. Well, that's like the pillars of Hercules, where people thought the sun went down each night. And what does he do with when he gets revenge on a bunch of Philistines? He gets a whole mess of foxes, and I think 30 of them, and ties their tails together, lights them on fire. Don't tell PETA. And he lets them loose in the grain fields of the Philistines and burns the crops up, just like the sun does. I've lived in North Carolina for a long time, and I notice how in the summer the corn grows up, but then just gets blasted by the summer heat, and it's just all bleached out and no good. Well, that's what being chalked up to Samson. He let's see.
What about his birth? I mean, if we go back to the
There's
birth, I thought there was something interesting because it appears, according to the narrative, and I hope I'm not mixing stories up here. I think I've got my stories correct because I've gone through the Old Testament quite a few times. And it seems like his mother, and I don't remember names, and father have this appearance from what appears to be, they thought, God. And he literally thinks he's dead. Like he falls down dead. And they have to shake each other and go, "Oh my gosh, did you just see that? That was God." right? I mean, but I'm still alive, so I shouldn't be alive if that was God. Oh, it's an angel. And the angel tells him, hey, he can't have grape and he can't cut his hair. Just remember that. He can smoke weed, though, just in case you're wondering. No, I'm just kidding. But, this story is, hey, he's taking I believe, is a Nazarite vow or something. Is there a parallel to that?
That's right. Well, the Nazarite vow usually, as with Paul in the Book of Acts, only lasted for several weeks at the most. And this has to do with Paul getting his hair cut before and after and all that. But Samson is supposed to be a lifelong Nazarite. Now, there were no such things. So why is he described this way? Well, because they're trying to explain how he has long hair all the time, because that originally meant something else, the rays of the sun. The And he doesn't follow up on the no wine. He's boozing it up at various places, wedding feasts and so on. So he doesn't fit the ascetic posture of the Nazarites, nor is he like the other judges, like Jephthah, who was a military commander, and Gideon, who's a strategist, and the various other ones who were prophets and warlords and so on. He's just like a rogue with superhuman strength. He's hanging out with prostitutes, Philistines. And by the way, the Noah story may reflect this, that he falls in love, or at least patronizes, two different Philistine women. And the fact that that was possible, that may be the kind of thing that the Noah story was implying, that the descendants of Shem and Japheth, the Hebrews and Philistines, will intermarry. But anyway, he certainly is no ordinary judge, and he's got the capriciousness and the vengefulness of a mythological demigod. And with his nativity, that really, I think, shows he's a demigod, because of what you just said. The redactor or the narrator can't quite decide, is this an angel or is this Jehovah himself? Because it must be Jehovah, because the couple, Manoah and his unnamed wife, say, geez, we shouldn't even be alive right now, because you can't see God and live. Maybe that's why they mitigate it a bit and sometimes call him the angel of Yahweh. But who knows? He's offered food but doesn't eat it, perhaps because, like Raphael in the book of Tobit, he can't. He doesn't have a physical physiology. And so remember, Manoah's wife was barren, as with about 5 or 6 other stories in the Bible. And it's the visitation of this angel and the announcement of the destiny of the child that makes her conceive. Well, I think it's pretty clear in the light of North African and Arabic customs. What they're trying to tell you with the wink is that the problem was not with Mrs. Manoah, but with Manoah himself. He couldn't impregnate her. And so what was it? He was sterile. She wasn't barren. But naturally, they blamed the women for everything. And so the angel, in reality, was a wandering shaman or prophet who impregnated her. And everybody said, to save face for the husband, it was an angel who did it. You can't accuse them of adultery. And but you could. And in fact, this was a case of the God impregnating the woman, just like the sons of God and daughters of men who gave birth to the giants, the mighty men of old. This was one of them. And so Samson is a superhumanly strong demigod, just like Hercules. You know, the thing where Hercules, as an infant in the crib, strangled 2 snakes and so forth. Or Super Baby. Ma and Pa Kent were surprised to see the infant Kal-El lifting up the tractor and so forth. Same mythic logic. And yeah, he was a demigod, the son of Yahweh, and had superhuman strength. And oh yeah, one other thing he did that shows his solar nature was when Delilah cuts his hair, right, and they're the rays of the sun, right? So he loses his strength, just like the sun is not strong when it's obscured by clouds. It's cold, it's dark, and he's blinded, which means you can't see the light of the sun and so forth. So
Darkness.
it just couldn't be more obvious that he's the sun god, or now a divine hero, a demigod. And they couldn't. He kills 1,000 men with the jawbone of an ass, right? That's an interesting thing. It doesn't really have to do with borrowing, but that seems to be a misreading of a place name called, I think it's Ramath Lehi, which means um, the ridge of the antelope, which means that it was just describing it in case you needed to for directions. It was a declining ridge with boulders on it, so it looked kind of like a jawbone, and so they misread it as it's part of a poem, and it said, "I killed 1,000 men with the jawbone of an ass." But it actually was supposed to mean, "I killed 1,000 men at Ramath Lehi," and somebody was being over literal. And so it once again really fascinating, and all the more so once you know what he was. And he's not the only sun god. He's so much like Hercules. He might be Hercules. Uh, uh,
That's
it's
is he?
telling. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. When I'm like, because I'm obviously just really taking everything you say, and I'm sure most people who are in here who are watching may not be aware of this, but is it because when I think of the strength and these things, the way that the story portrays it, it seems like in my head, and I don't know of any other examples, is Hercules and Samson. Are there other stories that have really strong superheroes other than the Greek and the Hebrews?
Well, Shamgar, one of the judges, must be another version of Samson, because he's said to have killed 600 men with an ox goad, just a sharp stick, and his name sounds a lot like Samson. Goliath would be another one. Because he's tall and obviously supposed to be super strong, and he's one of the Nephilim. And there are other of the Rephaim that fight alongside uh, Goliath in Second Samuel. Let's see. I'm not sure. Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls mention Gilgamesh, so the Hebrews knew about him, and of course he had superhuman strength. Makes you wonder if Adam did, since he's kind of another version of Enkidu. But that's just guesswork. But I'm sure there were others, but these are the ones I know of that are. Well, strangely enough, the demon-possessed guy of Geraza in the Gospels, he's said to have superhuman strength, and it's not because he's the offspring of unclean spirits. It's just that he's possessed by them, and so he's super energized. And
I wonder if there's any other god. I mean, obviously, gods. If you, I guess it wouldn't be such an easy parallel the way that Hercules and Samson are, but I suspect you could start looking at gods, a list of other gods from other places that have these amazing strengths that are sun type deities. So I guess these are the best known parallels that I'm aware of is Samson and Hercules. But yeah, that story to me, the gouge his eyes out tells me either it's just darkness or winter solstice might be taking place. There's and it's funny because Delilah tries to get his hair cut 3 times, and it's just fascinating repetitive mythology of three,
yep,
from 3 days in the belly of the well or the fish, whatever you want to interpret it as, with Jonah, or 3 days in the heart of the earth, Jesus. It almost makes you wonder, did these authors who wrote the gospel narratives that used these things, did they know? I mean, did they not know that Jonah, hey, this 3 is part of a myth theme. We're going to say like he was in the belly of the fish, or in the fish, or the heart, and the depths of the sea. We're going to say Jesus was in the heart of the earth, as this is our story we're going to use for this Jesus character. And here you have Samson. They're trying 3 days, it seems. At least it depicts 3 different days. I don't know if it's 3 exact days, because it seems like at one point he falls back for her love, and then you could maybe say there's time between that, and then she tries again, and then there's time between that, and he trusts her again, and then boom, the 3rd day, boom, that's when the real deal happens. And he at the end, he collapses the pillars, between the 2 pillars, he pushes them over. And does Hercules do something similar?
Um, well, there's in the one where he's at a prostitute's apartment and the Philistines are waiting outside to get him.
Yeah.
And the narrative is a little skimpy, but it says he goes out and lifts up the gates of the city and takes them up to the top of the hill. Ignaz Goldziher, great scholar of the Old Testament and the Quran, he said that he suspected that this was what was left of a version of the Hercules story, where he goes down to the netherworld, and he is bringing Theseus out of there. And he, in order to do it, he has to crash the gates, literally, of the netherworld to get back out. This is very much like the harrowing of hell business later ascribed to Jesus. Well, the original version of this might have been that Samson was crashing his way out of the netherworld, and that these were those gates, and that this symbolized the decline of the sun every evening, and it's coming back, and that so that you'd have the solar element lying behind it, and the version where it's demigod. And what was I going to say about this? And it would be a Hercules parallel. So depending if he's right about that, that would be another important one. I also think of one I've missed before that illustrates the solar nature of Samson. When he marries Delilah, and they have a huge wedding reception, as we would call it, for a week. He oh jeez, getting too late in the day.
Is this part where the riddle happens? And
yeah, I think it is, but the description that he comes out of the bridal tent, and he tells the story of his superhuman strength beating the lion and all that. There's a psalm, which I think it's wait a minute, I think it's Psalm 19.
I can Google it.
It's quick. Yeah. Let's see. In the end of verse 4 and the next couple of verses, Psalm 19 is based on Akhenaten's hymn to the sun in Egypt.
Interesting.
There's another borrowing. So in them, the heavens, he has set a tent for the sun, which comes forth like a bridegroom leaving his chamber, and like a strong man runs its course with joy. Its rising is from the end of the heavens, and its circuit to the end of them, and there's nothing hid from its heat. Of the sun. Well, there's Samson, who emerges from the bridal chamber, a strong man. You got to wonder if this is part of the symbolism. It certainly seems to be. That may be where the whole story came from.
That's amazing. You got the lion also being defeated, like you said, with Hercules and Samson, but you also have it with David. So David's either borrowing somewhat from the Samson when David was a kid and he tore this lion in half. It's like, where did this strength come from? I mean, he tells that story when and I can't remember if this is in Samuel or Chronicles, but I know that there's a story where Samson says, just like God has, was it a lion or was it a bear? I think it was a lion when it was coming for his sheep, and he's just a shepherd boy, and he says, I defeated a lion at the hands of God because they were all scared of Goliath, which also is an interesting, like you said, tie into Hercules, or not Hercules, but yeah, Hercules and Samson, but.
And he does defeat Goliath too, who's a
Right. Let me Google that one while we're here.
uh,
David kills lion as shepherd boy Bible. That's how I search stuff.
mm,
1 Samuel 17:34 says, but David said to Saul, your servant was tending his father's sheep when a lion or a bear, okay, so it says either, when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went out after him and attacked him and rescued it from its mouth. And when he rose up against me, I seized him by his beard, struck him and killed him. Your servant has killed both lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he has taunted the armies of the living God. And I find it fascinating that uncircumcision is so important, because the uncircumcised Philistine,
mm,
and then you also are dealing with the Philistine with Samson. So you have, both stories are making the uncircumcised Philistines such an important aspect of their narrative. But
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, boy, that's very good. I'd never noticed that.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm only charging 100 an hour. No, I'm just kidding. Dr. Bob, thank you for doing this one with me, because I know there's so much more we can explore. And look, we tackled 3 in a row. I had to separate these for topics so people could keep track of what, and they can go, oh, you want to know about Samson? Here's a story. Here's the video about, oh, you want to know about Noah? Here's the video. And here's the video of Adam. And I just ask that people who are into this stuff, who really appreciate what we're doing here, go show Dr. Bob some love. The way you can help is simply buying the literature and becoming a patron. It's that simple. It's $1 a month just to become a member, to be able to access some of the basic initiatory information. But if you really want to be like us, get to the top, you just got to throw a few more shekels, and then you get the spirit of the gods in you, figure out the real stuff. Make sure you guys show them some love, for real. I mean, this is what I do. I always try to be generous as much as possible to Dr. Bob for coming on. But I can only do so much. And I really appreciate those of you who help support him already. You guys know the value he brings to the table. And I can't thank you enough, Dr. Bob, for what you do. We'll continue this series after this and go into other biblical characters. You brought up someone that I can't help but say we got to at least comment passing by, and I think that would be the judge, who fights the 300.
Gideon.
Gideon, yeah, and how he parallels some interesting other stories. So there's so many of these things. We just,
Mm,
you got to eat, you got to enjoy your family time, and I got to, get my time also, and we'll do some follow-ups and just go into all these stories.
hmm
I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. You have
Oh,
any
by the way, I
Yeah.
gotta suggest. I wish I could remember the name of this movie for sure, but there was, I think, an early '60s sword and sandal movie in which you have Hercules meeting Samson, and they fight it out and then become allies. And Odysseus is in there too somehow, but it's really well done. I mean, of course, these things are campy and cheesy, but it's pretty well done. And so you get to see Hercules and Samson fight it out.
Well, all that
Like,
is the Hulk, you know?
hmm?
That's the Hulk.
Yeah, everybody always liked seeing Thor fight the Hulk, which he did every few years in the comics. Or one of the classic Jack Kirby masterpieces is when when Hercules comes down from Olympus and has a knockdown, drag out fight with Thor. They're throwing buses at each other right in the middle of Manhattan. Oh, it's great.
I love this stuff. You guys make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, go show Dr. Bob some love. And all his information is obviously in all the descriptions of all my videos that I put, everything from the YouTube channel, his website. You guys can get the books at the Amazon link or through his website, whatever you guys want. I have the affiliate link there. I really appreciate what you guys do. And don't forget, we are Myth Vision.